It's not gonna let me share it to my... Okay. Okay. Let's see. Live should show up as live now. Okay. Come on. Yeah.
Sometimes I would benefit from understanding my own power. Knowing your own power could really help sometimes, because I feel like we're here again because I don't know how to look away from garbage. Because I really do feel like we're here talking about this shit again because of my last video talking about this shit the first time. And sure, it's just kind of fun to say that, and I don't know that it was necessarily the case, but in my head canon, that's hilarious. So yes.
My camera's not doing it. Sorry about that, guys. Okay.
It is my fault. Hi, it's Kendall here. If you're new around here, welcome. If you're not new around here, and a year.
Hi everyone. We're watching Kenny today, and for some reason it's not working. Why is it not working? I just want to do my nails. Let's see. It's come off.
Half ago, I made a video about Passionflix's first forays into Black romance. For the uninitiated, Passionflix is this streaming service devoted to ad nauseam on the channel, but Blackness was a new component to their works. But I talked about the first movie they had done in what was supposedly supposed to be a series called The Granger Brothers.
Thanks for the like. Let's see. Yeah, I put a little bit of lotion on my hands so they look kind of wet. You know why? It's because I did that. Just pushing back my cuticles. And listening to Kenny JD. If you guys don't know her, she's Kenny JD on here.
That movie was called A Brother's Honor, and that was made in 2019, and it had been years since they had talked about it, so I just assumed they never made the rest of the series and wouldn't, because I guess presumably it wasn't popular enough. It has come to my attention that the series that I thought they had given up on, they haven't, and they made a second movie years later called A Man's Promise. And again, whenever there's a sequel to some shit movie that no one's heard of, I think it's my fault that they are making another one. My power, my influence. No. And so for better or worse, I went on there, watched the movie, had to watch my own video because I didn't remember shit about this film. It is incredibly forgettable, but convoluted.
No.
So I'm going to link the video that I did on the first half of it somewhere around here. You can watch it.
Yeah, it's alright. That's good. I'm glad that you're having a good night. I cannot find... Look, I have these nails, which are cool. And then I have these nails, which are glittery, but I don't have all of them. I still don't understand why it's like not very... I can't see. So weird. Sorry about that. Let's see. I'm just looking for like I did not realize I didn't have something to... Oh yeah, this is important. Hardest nails. Hardest nails are very important. Oh, here it is. I hope. Hello, I hope. Hooray! Okay. All right, I'm just gonna have to go without anything to like cut for my nails. It's okay.
At 1.5, 2 speed. That's what I did on my own video to figure out what was happening, what was the tea, remind you if you needed it. But today we're talking about their second installment and how bad it is. Because it's awful. And honestly, they could have just gave up on this series. I don't know, I had mixed feelings about it before because I wanted to know where a lot of these arcs were going because they were definitely introducing a lot of arcs. But I had kind of resounded myself to the fact that they're not going to finish it. So now I'm here and I'm like, well, maybe you should have did that. Hello everyone, this is Admiral Kenny, and today's video is sponsored by...
That's driving me insane.
I get so many compliments on
That's driving me insane that I can't, that it's like so not, not good. Hold on, let me see. You can't really see it. It's very blurry. Chat, if you have any ideas, let me know. Because I don't know why it's not. And I already wiped down my thing. Let's see. Okay. Well, I'm not gonna see. I'm not gonna see a lot. Oh, there we go. Yeah, I have a broken one. Oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. Ah, oh shit, oh shit. Fuck. Okay. We're okay. We are okay because, you know, that just might dry before I find something to wipe it with. Here. There we go. Okay. All you gotta do is just meet me at the... Let's see. Okay.
Now, The Grangers, if you recall, is about three brothers. There's Jace, the oldest, Caden, the middle child, and then Dalton, the youngest. Each of which are incredibly successful, and they all come together taking over their family's aeronautics company when their grandfather dies of a heart attack.
Oh my goodness.
His dying wish is that they save the company, take over it, and get their dad out of jail. Their
Oh my
dad had
goodness.
gone to prison for murdering their mother, but they
Oh my
think it
goodness.
was a bogus charge and he didn't actually do that. And then at some point, there's love because it's passion flicks. So people do get
Passion
in
flicks.
abruptly, as per usual. Again, I made a video on the first part, linked down below. That was about the oldest brother, Jace, and him falling in love with a woman named Shayne. It was a mess.
Ooh,
but all of
Shayne.
these movies are a
Shayne.
mess. So it was a mess in black. Speaking of which, I've been listening to In Black again for my like second gen K-pop bitches. Sexy Beat, really underrated EP. Baby girl. But the last movie ended abruptly with a bunch of drama, some betrayal from a guy that worked at the company.
Oh no.
And it ended with Jace getting kidnapped and saved, and Shayne being pregnant and him proposing to her. That's how that movie ended. This movie follows the middle child, Caden, who in the first movie there was some allusion to him having a relationship with this girl named Shiloh. Now, in the last movie, they just called her like his best friend, so I assume she was a childhood friend. But according to this movie, there was a whole bunch of other shit that happened not even when they were kids, that happened 4 years ago, and I think it would have been a good idea to tell us that, but they're telling us now. So, and we're going to go into his love story with that. There's also espionage. There's like 4 million different PIs for some reason. Everybody, like whenever they need to progress a story along, they're like, let's get a private investigator. Lazy writing. Thank you, Passion Flicks. But luckily, this movie is a cool 87 minutes, so it's not going to take that long to talk about all the crap, even though it is very convoluted and stupid like the first movie. So without further ado, let's talk about A Man's Promise 2024, The Grangers, Part 2. If you don't remember Caden, because you wouldn't, because I didn't remember Caden. Caden is the middle child, and his thing was that he played saxophone and was very successful in a band, in like a jazz band, doing that before he had to come back to the company when it was going under in the last movie. And if you recall, he had a very complicated...
Okay, so this is not very opaque, so I'm gonna have to fix that. Gonna have to do this 2 ways.
Sassy relationship with his bass player, one of the people in the band, which they referenced very briefly in the first movie when he said she was off key.
Egged that woman on. She was practically stripping for you.
Is that why you were off key?
Y'all remember that? That was very funny. I was like, ooh. Now, that complicated relationship will be referenced a bit more in this, so I'll just let you know right now that the girl, the bass player, her name was Rita, and they used to fuck around, and then he was like, you taking this too seriously, and he had to let her go, which sounds like retaliation, which is illegal. If you have the ability to fire her, you shouldn't have been fired, but I digress. This is a romance. Don't look too good.
She's right though. He shouldn't have done that because that's workplace sexual harassment. And if you are not sure if that's happened to you, talk to your Title IX officer in your company. And if you don't have a Title IX officer in your company, do a little more research. But whenever, and this is like social commentary, whenever a woman has to fuck her way up to the top, it always sounds like a bad thing. But here's the thing is, why are those men gatekeeping positions for like against women who are capable of doing the job unless they sexually abuse and coerce her? You know, just a thought. So if you're young and you're not sure, don't allow yourself to do something you didn't want to do in the first place. because somebody said that you had to, especially if it's like, oh, you gotta do this sexual favors thing. That's just the culture of the industry. Don't believe that shit. Somebody told me that when I was modeling a long time ago, and you know what happened? The Me Too movement. Rylan, hi. Welcome to the stream. Just doing my nails, trying to do some self-care things. So, how's your night? I'm gonna continue playing, but I'll pause it to respond. It's not going good. Whose night is not going good? I'm so sorry. I hope that things get better. And you know, just hang out, have fun. I'll be here.
So, though you need to know about Rita, not
I hope that your day gets better, or your night gets better.
a whole lot, because this movie is going to be about him and the girl that he loved, Shiloh. Like at the beginning of this movie, they're not on good terms. And it's kind of hard to understand why. In the first movie, we were under the impression that they weren't on good terms because they just fell off when his father went to jail for murder, and her parents told her to stay away from them because they're obviously dangerous and unkempt if getting murder charges. So he thought that she had just turned her back on him. But apparently, there's more to the story that we are told very abruptly with expository dialogue as everything happens in Passion for the Rock. So that's the like foundation of this relationship going into this movie. They don't like each other. They got bad blood, and it's her dad's fault, supposedly. But her dad has passed away, and so now we have to consider, like, what will they choose to do now that they can make their own choices? Okay, so speaking of Shiloh, the first scene with her is her at dinner with her brother Cedric. And she got boho braids, which, I want some boho braids so bad. But unfortunately, the reason I haven't gotten them yet is because I have too much faith in myself, and I feel like I can do it myself. I probably shouldn't feel that way, because I don't think I can do it myself. But my pride won't let me go to somebody else until I do it myself. But she has boho braids, and she's there talking to her brother. Oh, I want to see these boho braids. I didn't remember this. It's a really throwaway thing in the first movie, but Cedric is a doctor. Not only is he a doctor, he's the doctor that was looking over the Granger's granddad when he had his heart attack and was there when he died. This would be vaguely relevant, and Shiloh is really excited because she is going to be taking the next step in her career. She's going to be opening a wine bar. But at the company later, Shiloh and Cedric's mom comes to the Granger company. Now, the Granger company don't like the mom either because she did nothing to stop the father from tearing them away from the Granger brothers, because Cedric was also friends with them as well. So he didn't want either of them hanging out with them. But she has come there.
Wait, wasn't she murdered?
To apologize for all the problems that her deceased husband had put them through. This is where she starts to drop a lot of expository dialogue about, quote, 4 years ago. Okay, because again, as we knew it, they were childhood friends and stopped being friends 15 years ago when the mama was murdered and the daddy went to jail. So we're like, what are you talking about 4 years ago? So apparently, they had a whole relationship.
Oh no.
And they were engaged. They were looking to get married. Her father, Shiloh's father, found out, forbade her from going. Shiloh and Caden ended up breaking up because he found pictures of her on the beach with another man. So mom is here like that.
OMG. What the heck?
That was not a real photo. Those were altered by her deceased father so that you wouldn't marry her. She didn't leave you in Vegas where they were supposed to get married. She was actually in the hospital fighting for her life. Her father had found out about your engagement plans and they argued. She ran out into the street and got hit by a car. Sorry. Was in the hospital fighting for her life and she lost the baby. That was a lot of information.
That was a lot of information. What the heck? That was crazy.
This is like 5 minutes into the movie, and I'm like, this series is very much so just sitting there going, who? Like all the time for me. And I got Anna hit it real bad, so maybe that's just me. But I'm just sitting there like, who are we talking about? That's what happened. So now with this new understanding that she didn't cheat on him, that they were torn apart by her dead, deceased, no longer with us, passed on father, he's like, I want to start things over again because I was under the impression that she just didn't want me and cheated on me. So he ends up finding out where her new wine store is opening up, and he gives her a visit where he's like, I found out everything. I found out what your daddy did. I found out about the baby. I want to start over. And she's like, no, you hurt me so much. You had no faith in me. I had so much faith in you. No. But this is a romance movie.
Yes.
So her consent is
The rom-com thing. She just put up a boundary. She's hurt. She doesn't want to do it. You know, she doesn't want to do it. So don't make her. Don't make her.
not a factor in it. In anything that happens. So he said, I ain't listening to your bullshit. We gonna be together. I love you. I'm gonna prove to you that I'm the nigga that you need to be with. I'm giving you a man's promise, which is the title of the movie.
Yes.
This movie is about Caden, mostly. We do end up having several B plots, a lot of B plots.
No, I fucked it up.
And Shayna being engaged and possibly getting married. It's really stupid, so I'm not going to waste too much time on it. But that's what happens. They're engaged. She's expecting a baby in the spring. And there's little cute moments where he has to talk to her father and get his approval of their engagement, marriage, whatever they end up doing. But Shayna is important because, again, in the last movie, she was a PI type person, and her sister Jules is also a PI type person, ex-cop. Her father is also ex-cop, so there's a whole band of investigators, right? Which is important when things start going awry. In jail is Shepard, the father that is in jail for the murder of the mama, and they don't believe that he actually murdered her. And while using one of the computers, he sees an incredibly large text. Someone threatening him to make sure that his sons don't try to reopen his case and prove his innocence. Because of this, he said, let me get my lawyer because obviously somebody is trying to bother my boys and bother me. So he gets his lawyer, who he's f***ing, by the way.
Whoa. Ew.
To the story. There's no reason to do this. Maybe it's important in the future movies, but they should not be. 10 out of 10 would not recommend. But he's like, lawyer lady who I am fucking. Please hire some PI investigators to look after my boys without them knowing. Okay, so Dalton, we haven't talked about him a whole lot. He's a weirdo as well as everyone else. But if you recall in the last movie, he had a brief encounter with a mysterious woman that he met at a bar who didn't want him. And he's never met a woman that don't want him. That just will not do. In this movie, he has decided to hire a PI, because that's what everyone does for some reason, to find her. Little does he know, but we as the audience do, that the woman that he's trying to find is actually Shayna's sister, Jules.
Oh.
The more he goes into trying to find.
This sounds like an anime, like one of those anime dating dramas that I like, manga things, like very similar to like, oh my goodness, Hot Gimmick. And like any K-drama, really.
Her, the more he thinks of it as like an affront to him that she's hard to find, this challenge or whatever, like how dare you? Which if this were not a movie, and even that it is a movie, does not ignore the fact that that's fucking weird and creepy. You met one time at a bar, she said, no, I'm not interested, and you hired a private investigator. You are a psycho. You are crazy, and you are weird. Back to Shiloh. She's getting ready for her opening, and Caden is sending her flowers and doing the whole big please type thing. But not even big please. It's like, get over it. We're meant to be together. Get over it right now. Like I said, there's several B plots in this movie. And the only one that I actually like is about Shayna and Jules's father. He ends up dating a woman who was in the first movie. I do not remember whether or not I mentioned it at all because it was kind of a throwaway storyline, but I actually like it here because it's actually the only part of this movie that I think is actually very cute. It's a
Oh,
woman named Mona who is blind. She hasn't always been blind. She was in an accident of some sort that resulted in her losing her sight. This is the first
oh,
woman he's found himself able to love since his wife died of cancer a long time ago. It's really nice
okay.
seeing him love again. I think that's very cute. And there's a lot of
We're gonna do this
him
one.
saying I want to be there for you. I want
I
to
just love a good sparkle.
experience things with you, and I'll be your eyes if you need me. And it's very, very cute. I'm like, oh, all the feelings, all the emotions. He's like, I'm a gentleman. I would wait for you. If we travel somewhere, we can have different rooms. I just want to be with you. It's very, very cute. And she seems to be a little apprehensive, not because she doesn't love him and care about him, but she has a lot of fears about leaving her.
Well, yes, she was a seeing person and now she cannot see. And then the stranger is professing his love to her and is like not I don't know, it just seems like she doesn't know him very well.
Her comfort zone since she's created a very cocooned type life around her ailment, so it's resulted in her not feeling comfortable to really explore and go places because it's out of her comfort zone. Whereas he's saying no, I want us to still experience these things together and I will help you. And I think it's very cute. Time for Shiloh's opening of her wine bar. Apparently she had no say in who can come because there was a hell of people there that theoretically she wouldn't want to be there, one of which was Caden Granger. But there's also a few other people as well. Her mother, who she has a strained relationship with, some family called the Greens, who seem to be prominent and they come up periodically. The parents of the Greens family once worked at Granger and prestige outside of the Granger company, but their son Ivan comes to the event. He's running for mayor and he seems to have a cold energy towards Caden. What's going on there? And then there's these messy white people named the Owens who Shiloh overhears talking about that is in jail for murdering their mama, and they heard on the block that it was because she was cheating on him and it was a crime of passion. At first I thought Shiloh was overhearing this, but they really go to her and say, you used to be friends with them. You think he killed her?
Shiloh, you knew the Grangers. Do you believe Shepard could kill his wife?
You think he the type of to kill her? You think he a murderer? And she says, well, I was young during the trial. I don't know, but I've always heard that it was the other way around, that the father was having an affair. But interesting that you seem to have that information. Reminder to clarify things. In the first movie, we found out information that the deceased mom was cheating on the daddy. And the daddy took the fall for it because he didn't want everybody to know that about her. So,
So that's not good at all. That other people fucking knew about the affair now. What?
we'll learn more about specifics about that in this movie. Talk about going out bad. You going to a jail for a dead person that cheated on you? But he said, I didn't want to ruin my kid's life. Didn't want them to feel differently about their mom. But lo and behold, here they are 35 and they have a lot of things to find out about. After the party, Caden sticks around because he doesn't know what boundaries are.
Yeah.
He asked Shiloh if she has a history with Ivan Green, so the mayor, the guy trying to run for mayor. And she says, no, why do you think so? And he was like, because he had a big attitude, so I figured that he had some feelings for you because that's what makes sense for me. And she said, no, not that it's any of your business.
That's hilarious. But also, what the heck? What kind of question is that? So narcissistic to think that it's all about them. This guy who's like, you got something going on with the major mayor? Because that's how I think of you. It's like, all right.
But no, I don't have anything with him. This continues on with him going, baby, please forgive me for the wrongs that I did. I didn't know, but not in a pleading way, in a you will forgive me. Stop all this moping around that you're doing. Get over it. You and your silly emotions. Come on. I'll give you.
No!
So he leaves out of the place after.
No! I fucked it up. Which part did I fuck up? Which part did I fuck up? Oh my god. That's why I don't know my nails. What the heck? I need that the nail art that makes it look like cracked nails or whatever, I think I'm gonna need that.
After like encroaching on her physical boundaries, and he immediately almost gets ran over by a car. But he's saved mysteriously by some real cute dark-skinned dude named Striker. Striker. And Shiloh, now faced with the very possible reality that he could have died, is like, oh no. And she starts like making out with him and like, personally, as a watcher and a conspiracy theorist, I was like, did he orchestrate that? Because she ended up fucking him that night. She's like, oh yeah, I was trying to hold my little grudges that are very reasonable. We got R&B music to play and genitalias to bump, which they do. And the R&B music ain't bad. And they do it all over, in the shower, in the bed, against the wall. Good for y'all. Back to Dad in prison, the lawyer whom he is. She tells him that Kaden was nearly ran over, but the PI that she had tracking him was protecting him. Then back with the Grangers, Shayna and Shiloh. If I remember correctly, that's everybody. Shayna was like, do you think someone was trying to hurt you? I mean, considering everything that happened with Jace just a few months ago, it does seem like y'all got some enemies. He's like, I don't think so. Dalton then goes into how there's been some suspicious activity at the office with some girl named Brandy. Now, the reason I had to look down, one, is because there's so many names, but two, we never see Brandy. Fashion flicks don't do B-roll. They just put niggas in front of you and they talk a lot. Me! He's like, Brandy would come up into my office after hours so much that I was starting to get suspicious, so I had some security people put cameras in my office, and she's like just looking around a lot and taking pictures. I don't like that. So they're like, okay, let's look into that. Let's consider all options, whatever. Jace is like, after everything with me, and now he could have possibly been targeted in an accident type thing. I want to hire Shayna's sister, Jules, who is also a PI, if you remember, to look into everything. Speaking of Jules, who runs a PI for her, Dalton is really excited.
But it's like it's never enough light. What is wrong with my camera?
Because he found information about the mysterious woman from the bar. His PI is like, oh, well, it wasn't that hard to find her, especially because I have to know people in my business. The girl you're looking for is a PI as well. But now that he's found her, he's really excited to, quote, teach her a lesson, which sounds like murder, yeah? Which sounds like violence,
murder.
But
sounds like revenge.
Okay, cool. Weird. But it's supposed to be funny because it's a movie, but he definitely needs to be on somebody's list. Brandy, the woman that we've never met, never seen, only knew that she was doing something suspicious. Well, she just wound up, again, off screen, dead. The parents sue of side. She left a note to her parents and how much she loved her sister, which is confusing to Dalton because he knows, for some reason, that she didn't have a sister. I don't know why you know that much of her business, considering she just worked there. Back to Jules and Dalton. He's found her, so he goes into her office. She's been recast, by the way. It was very confusing because they look nothing alike, so I was like, is this the sister? Yes, it's Shayna's sister. And again, somehow, instead of this being an action news at 11 story of murder and obsession, he's like, found you. He's like, now that I found you, you got to find me, but I'm going to make it easy for you. This is where we're going to dinner tonight. And I'm like, nothing is scarier than the romantic genre. Like, at all. Y'all are frightening. Back to Shiloh and her brother Cedric. After the car incident with Kaden, he doesn't seem to be a fan of the Grangers, which he was kind of neutral about prior to this, or at least seemed to be neutral about them prior to this. He's like, he staged a car thing to get pussy from you, which I know sounds crazy, but no less crazier than anything else that happens in this movie. And again, I too thought about it. If we're gonna do dumb shit, do it. But she's like, have you been hanging out with the Greens? Because I saw you talking to them at my wine party, and I've never known you to be particularly close to them. They don't like the Grangers, so what's up with that? And then he just leaves, not at all suspiciously. He's like, and goes. Jules goes to meet up with Dalton at the place that he wanted to meet up. But she gets real dressed up, get her titties to her throat, and she's like, I'm just here to let you know that I'm not interested.
Oh.
You should just forget you found me and leave me alone. And he's like, you came all the way down here, got dressed up, put your makeup on, did your hair, put your titties in your throat to say that? And she's
Yes.
like, yes, and stop looking for me. And he's like, okay, I'll stop looking for you. And then she leaves. Later, Jules comes over to help Jace and Shayna look.
I'm already confused. Oh, the movie's almost done. This was a long movie.
Into the guy who may have tried to kill Caden, right? Does he have any enemies? Yada yada. There's a few people that may have an issue with the Grangers at large. The Greens, apparently the parents used to work for the company, but the reason why they got fired is actually because the husband was cheating with the dead mama. And then he was fired when they found out. Sounds like a lawsuit somewhere, but okay. The night of the car thing, they were actually on a cruise, and there's evidence of them being off on the cruise, so at least they didn't physically do it. Shiloh brings up about the Owens talking about how the mom was having an affair, so that means that there was more people than they're aware of that knew she was fucking other dudes. And then Caden brings up Rita, the bandmate that we saw for 3 seconds who was off key in the first movie. He says that she still got a problem with me because we used to fuck and then I didn't want to fuck her no more. She got real possessive, and then I had my manager Grover fire her. Again, that also sounds like something suitable there. But anyway, so they're going to look into various people, including Rita, including the Greens, everybody, to see what's going on. Now, of the brothers, the only person that doesn't know about the affair supposedly is Dalton. So they sit him down and tell him about mom cheating on dad. And he's like, I already knew that. I caught her fucking another dude before, and she came in my room and said, don't tell nobody. And they were like, wow, you caught her with Mr. Green? And he says, no. I caught her.
Who was it then?
With somebody else. Fucking two niggas outside of her marriage. And the man she was married with after she died went to jail for her. Kind of pussy you got. We're back to Shayna's dad and Mona in New York. This is, again, a throwaway thing, but it's very wholesome and very cute. They went to shows, and he like described things for her, and yada, yada, yada. And they have their separate rooms, and he says, I love you, which apparently he's been doing a lot, but she's always felt a little uncomfortable reciprocating it. So later in the night, she comes to him, and she's like, I just want to tell you I love you, and I never thought I would say that because like I didn't think that was possible for me. And then they kiss, and then they make love, and it was very cute. I was like, oh. Shiloh and Caden go away to Vegas, running away together like they were supposed to do all those years ago. And while there, Grover, Caden's manager, goes up to Shiloh and is like, hey, I need to show you a surprise. And he takes her to this rented out restaurant where Caden is playing the saxophone, and then he proposes to her, and she says yes. And apparently they elope in Vegas off screen again. They just don't want to spend any budget. And I get it, because ain't nobody watching this shit but me. Back home, and this is when Dalton realizes that the woman that he's been stalking for the last few months via PI is actually his sister-in-law, essentially. He's making it sound like it's a him problem, like, oh no, I gotta deal with this. But like, you the weird one. I'm concerned for her. Like, she's stuck with your ass in some degree or another for the rest of her life because her sister is about to marry this weirdo and you're his brother. He's really annoyed and like, I don't want to even look at her because he got rejected, and he leaves out, and she's like, whatever.
Oh wait,
She's
no,
like,
I can't
PI.
post that.
I'm here for PI reasons. So, did you know that Caden, your manager, he has reasons to have it out for you? And he's like, what are you talking about? Yeah, I knew he wasn't like thrilled when I had to pull back on music to take care of the company, but he understood that. And she's like, he has gambling debts, a lot of them. I would have gave him the money. Why would he try to kill me? She was like, I guess you don't know the $1 million life insurance policy that he has out on you. I'm no expert. I don't know how most insurance works, honestly, but I'm pretty sure you can't just sign up a random person for an insurance policy. I'm pretty sure you can just sign up some guy you know for an insurance policy, especially a life insurance policy. Don't you have to be married or like related in some way? You get, yes, dude, I know. Take a hit out on him for $1 million. You know what I mean? But after time, Jewel is able to confirm that. But there's evidence that Grover had rented a car for that area. The car that had nearly run him over. They also found out that he was embezzling from him to pay his gambling debts. Embezzle? Girl, embezzle. Not your manager. being the one
Mhm.
to try to take you out. Caden goes to Grover's office and he confronts him. He's like, "You take a hit out on me, essentially. You do a life insurance policy. You got
Mhm.
gambling debt. I know you've been embezzling to pay for your grandmother." He's like, "What are you doing?" But eventually, he's like, "Well, I had to do what I had to do." He essentially confesses, right? And Caden's like, "Well, I'm sure the police want to hear this because I recorded it." He was like, "That don't matter, bitch. We live in a two-party consent state." He was like, "Good thing I bought the police." And here comes the police who come in and take Grover away, and that's it. They don't fight. They don't even really yell that much. They get a little impassioned. That's it, which is crazy because I ain't never seen a movie end so anticlimactically. I don't think ever. At least in the first movie, getting kidnapped and shot and like things were happening. It was broad daylight. It wasn't even dark outside. He came in to his office and said, "You know you be embezzling, right?" He's like, "Yeah, I do be embezzling." And they took his ass off calmly. He didn't punch nobody, and shit happened. I was like, this could have been a letter. You didn't have to film any of this. The movie ends with Shiloh's brother, Cedric, in a dark alley, and a bitch comes out dressed in a Sith cloak, looking like evil Kermit. "I know what you did today, Granddaddy. You killed him. He would have survived a heart attack. And if you don't want..."
She's not wrong. She's not wrong. She does look like she has her Seth hood on in the shadows and shit.
To know, make sure they don't reopen the case on the Granger dude who's in jail. Make sure nobody tries to find his innocence.
Is that the
And that's
mom?
the end of the movie. Completely a waste of time. It was awful, and I hated it. But again, as usual, I don't know how to let shit go. I don't know if curiosity killed the cat, but it's definitely taken some nice days away from me. There's so many things that I know that I shouldn't know just because I'm curious, and I really need to stop. I found out where musk comes from. This is a completely unrelated thing. Musk, like the base of perfumes, actually comes from a gland just above the dick of a deer. Used to come from that. And that vanilla originally used to come from beaver blood. FDA approved too. I say all that to say, I wish I didn't want to know things, but unfortunately here we are. So you're getting this video as well. Unfortunately, I'll probably follow up on the third movie too if we ever end up doing it. But if you like this video, feel free to like this video, comment below what are
We love it. Oh, we love it.
we
look at their before and after from this movie, and you can know that they are severely oppressed by witchcraft. You know, even by reading this, there is witchcraft involved in the movie, and there was witchcraft actually done on the set. This stuff ain't no joke. A lot of people just go to church, but they don't believe in the supernatural move of the Holy Spirit. A lot of people know church, they know religion, they know tradition, they know about the church down the street, but they don't know about the church, the Holy Spirit church that the Bible tells every believer can walk in. It tells us in Luke chapter 10, verse 19, we have power and authority to trample over every serpent, to have power over devils, to cast them out. The truth of the matter is, if you don't tell people about the supernatural powers to cast them out, power and authority to trample can walk in. It tells Luke chapter 10, verse 19, we have power and authority to trample over every serpent, to have power over devils, to cast them out. The truth of the matter is, if you don't tell people about the supernatural power of God that's in the name of Jesus, when you have a relationship with God, the enemy's going to come in and he's going to deceive these people in a way that seems right, but actually leads to destruction, that leads to dissension, that leads from them separating themselves from God, going down all these different paths that don't lead to God and don't lead to eternal life.
The witches aren't hiding. You know that. We know that. As believers, we know the witches aren't hiding. What I want to know about this Wicked movie, this movie that's called Wicked, the two main characters are witches. If you are not a believer, go ahead and scroll by. Go scroll by. I got a check in my spirit when I saw the movie Wicked, when I saw the Holy Spirit basically told me that this movie demonic and the two main actors are witches. Okay, whatever, I'm not gonna go see the movie. But now that I'm seeing the interviews on my For You page, I'm like, they're not even trying to hide. The Cynthia girl has a tattoo about like a hat in a broom, and then they also have where they hold hands, and the tattoos are like meat. It's just very spiritual, demonic things. And Ariana Grande already came out and said she was a witch, literally. So I'm 1,000% sure that they did rituals over this movie to get you guys obsessed, to get you guys to buy the merch, to do. I'm gonna see it.
Interesting.
And peace and blessings. So
Okay, I get it. Everybody's like, oh yeah, it's this thing that's okay.
She, oh God, they speak to
I
us.
need to. I'm evidence-based. I need to see the evidence.
So been going on.
Grande admitted to us a few years back that she is a witch. A witchy witch, in her words. And if you don't remember watching this clip.
Every day. No, they come to me.
Oh, interesting.
They come to me.
You are a witch.
I am indeed. The witchiest witch.
Whatever is going on with Ariana Grande and Cynthia is definitely spiritual. Because this is not normal. How do you go from looking like this to this? My theory is that these spirits are literally sucking the life out of Ariana Grande and Cynthia. I don't know what they are harvesting, but it is definitely demonic. I don't know. The movie title is wicked. They look wicked. It all just seems too eerie for me. I'm definitely not going to go sit in a movie theater as a child of God and go watch a witch perform. It just does not make sense. So I won't be watching a wicked movie. Whatever is on them is definitely in that movie, and I will be protecting my spirit at all costs. And I recommend that you guys do the same and exert your discernment.
Interesting.
So,
I feel like people may or may not be actually believe that. Sometimes they just say it just to say it. It's like, why bother doing that?
my sister wants to see this movie. I told her no. But it's up to her. Obviously, she can do whatever she wants. But it is my responsibility. I feel like any Christian's responsibility to make sure to make your siblings and your cousins, your family around you aware of the witchcraft and the manipulation that is going on around movies have portals to other realms that it can open your mind to things that you probably shouldn't know, to spirits that you probably should have never experienced, but because you watched that movie or even listened to that song, you sadly have experienced something that God never intended for you to experience. And that's why you're struggling, it's a certain way that God never wanted you to struggle with, because you opened that portal and you disobeyed, or you just weren't aware, you just didn't know the struggle. I think of movies like great. I watched that when I was a little girl when I
Oh, excuse me.
spicy books definitely exposed me a lot to fantasizing that is toxic and a lie. It's a lie from the devil to fantasize. A lot of us women, we romanticize it. It's up to you. Obviously, if you want to watch it, I'm not. This is for my Christians only. Don't be out here coming at me like, oh, it's not that serious. Like, in my eyes, in my faith, in my beliefs, and in my experience, it is that serious. Sin is really serious. It really affects you. It steals a lot from you. And I feel like lately I've been in this season of seeing a lot of things that have happened because of my disobedience. A lot of it was not my fault. Sadly, bad things happen to you. You're going to be by shit. When I was 15, King Saul went and
Okay.
It's official.
I want to know about these P. Diddy allegations.
Sean Diddy Combs has been denied bail once again. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Okay, so we have some breaking news for you on this emergency sidebar. Sean Diddy Combs will not be reunited with his family in time for Thanksgiving. No, the embattled rapper and music mogul who's been sitting in the Metropolitan Detention Detention Center on federal sex crimes charges since he was arrested in September. He will be sitting there now, what seems to be indefinitely. Why? Because he has just been denied bail by Judge Arun Subramanian. This is the current judge overseeing this case. This judge had not decided this issue yet. He held a hearing on this last week where both sides presented evidence and arguments back and forth for why Sean Combs should or should not be granted bail. And we just got this decision. So I'm going to go through this order by Judge Subramanian right now. It was released right on Thanksgiving Eve, right at the end of the day on Wednesday. It reads, the court has evaluated each of the factors that it must consider under the relevant law. 1, nature and circumstances of the offense charged. 2, weight of the evidence against the person. 3, history and characteristics of the person. And 4, nature and seriousness of the danger that would be posed by the person's release. And it also says the court has also reviewed the information submitted by Combs and the government across all 3 bail hearings in this case. As you remember, Sean Combs was denied bail both by a magistrate judge and a district court judge. Judge Subramanian writes, the court finds that the government has shown by clear and convincing evidence, so that's the standard, that no condition or combination of conditions will reasonably assure the safety of the community. In support of this finding, the court provides the following reasons. Now, first, Judge Subramanian goes through the allegations in the indictment to show how serious this is.
I did my nails.
The indictment charges
And I keep fucking them up.
Combs with serious and violent crimes. And by the way, we remember he's charged with racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution. Subramanian writes, it alleges that for decades, Combs abused, threatened, and coerced women and others around him to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct. To do so, Combs relied on the employees, resources, and influence of the multifaceted business empire that he led and controlled, creating a criminal enterprise whose members and associates engaged in and attempted to engage in, among other crimes, sex trafficking.
That's real supervillain shit. That's like what Lex Luthor would do.
Forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. And it goes on further to talk about more of the allegations. Judge Subramanian writes, the government has presented direct evidence of Combs' violence. And what he cites is the 2016 videotape where Sean Combs is purportedly beating his ex-girlfriend, Cassandra Ventura, in a hotel hallway. This was published by CNN several months ago. This has been a big piece of evidence in this case. We've talked about it extensively. Remember, Cassandra Ventura is the one who initially filed that lawsuit against Sean Combs back in November of 2023, got the ball rolling with all the other lawsuits and also all the criminal charges. But he not only cites the 2016 video to show his propensity for violence, but text messages between Combs and Victim 1. Now, we believe Victim 1 to be Cassandra Ventura. But it reads, text messages from the hours, days following the 2016 Intercontinental Hotel incident say, I have a black eye and a fat lip. You are sick for thinking it's okay to do what you've done. I still have crazy bruising. From there, Judge Subramanian also says there is evidence supporting a serious risk of witness tampering. For example, Combs initiated and had unexplained communications with Witness 1, who was subpoenaed to testify before the grand jury in June 2024, and in fact testified on July 25th, 2024. Combs was represented by counsel during this time, and they have offered an explanation for some of these communications, but they could not explain them all. For instance, Combs' efforts to call and text Witness 1 even after his grand jury testimony, or Combs deleted text with this witness. That's bad, right? The idea of reaching out to a witness maybe before you knew they were a grand jury witness. That could be a problem, but really after their grand jury testimony, that's a problem. From there, Judge Subramanian says there is evidence that Combs violated Bureau of Prisons regulations during his pretrial detention to obscure his communications with third parties. We talked about this a lot, how Sean Combs was using other inmates' PAC numbers to make calls, was using a private messaging service to reach out to people, was also engaging in three-way phone calls. The allegation was he was not only breaking the rules, but he was also doing it to reach out to potential witnesses in the case, maybe to try to influence potential jurors through a social media campaign. Now, this is interesting because Judge Subramanian writes, the court makes no determination that the content of Combs' communications through these channels was improper. That's interesting. And this is something that he talked about in the hearing about, is it really bad he's posting things or having people post things for him on social media? So he's saying, we're not really going to focus on the content of the communications, but, and this is something that we talked about in a prior sidebar, It was just the flouting of the rules that was the problem. He writes, however, his willingness to skirt BOP rules in a way that would make it more difficult for his communications to be monitored is strong evidence that the court cannot be reasonably assured as to the sufficiency of any conditions of release, especially given that they occurred when Combs was seeking bail and when he knew the government's concerns about witness tampering and obstruction were front and center. Yeah, really bad he's doing this when he's already accused of obstruction and he's under the government's eye. But, and this is also interesting, you know another reason why the court was skeptical about Sean Combs being released? And, Judge Subramanian at least kind of entertained what would bail look like, what would pretrial release look like. He went on a back and forth, and we'll talk about this in a minute, where Sean Combs' attorneys had said he has an apartment in New York, there will be private security. Well, here's what the court says. The court doubts the sufficiency of any conditions that place trust in Combs and individuals in his employ, like a private security detail, to follow those conditions. So, wow. So it really seems swayed by the prosecution's argument that his private security team could probably be susceptible to manipulation. Now, this part is fascinating. There was a back and forth at the beginning of the hearing, and we're going to get into it in a little bit, where Judge Subramanian was asking Sean Combs' lawyers about a discrepancy. You might recall that there were materials that were photographed from Sean Combs' jail cell. And the allegation was by the defense was that this was a violation of his privilege, that there were materials that were photographed that were subject to attorney-client work product privilege. And the defense had said that there was a number of legal pads that said legal on top of them. And there was a discrepancy where the judge brought it up about whether these pads actually said legal. He writes, the court further notes that it held an emergency hearing to address the government's usage of notes on legal pads recovered from Combs' bunk. At that hearing, defense counsel advised all these legal pads say legal. Yes, they're marked as legal. After the hearing, the court inquired why, in light of counsel's representation that the notes at issue were on legal pads and were clearly marked as legal, photographs taken during the sweep show no such labels. At the hearing, defense counsel admitted that it has to be the case that as of the day of the search, legal wasn't written on every legal pad, and that they were not sure whether the pad presented to the court had legal on it at the time of the sweep. And Judge Subramanian writes, the circumstances of this incident and the misrepresentation made at the hearing where Combs was present bear on whether the court can be reasonably assured that any conditions it imposes will be followed, or whether through inadvertence or active subversion they will be broken and the community's safety threatened. But as we now know, he's not just facing the criminal charges, he is also facing all these lawsuits, a barrage of civil lawsuits. The floodgates, they really seemingly opened after his ex-girlfriend, Cassandra Ventura, filed that bombshell lawsuit against him.
Thank goodness. Thank God that she did that.
Her to a decade of physical, mental, and sexual abuse. Combs adamantly denied the claims, but you remember he settled that lawsuit with Cassie the very next day. And then there was the surge of lawsuits after that, with several other people coming forward to say that while Combs appeared to be everybody's favorite celebrity rapper, appearing on talk shows, guest starring on TV shows and movies, behind the scenes, they say he was essentially a ruthless criminal. Well, on Tuesday, attorney Tony Busby filed
He was a monster.
And they share a common theme. They share a common theme with the others that he's filed on behalf of clients who say that Combs abused them. They all talk about Combs' alleged drug use, the claim that he and his associates would drug or lace drinks with GHB or ecstasy, that he would give them to unsuspecting victims at parties and auditions, allegations that not only he, but his associates, his bodyguards, participated in forced sexual acts. And all the plaintiffs, they have filed anonymously against not only Combs, but also his companies like Bad Boy Entertainment, Bad Boy Productions. Now, before I get into this, I have to stress something. Combs has always denied any wrongdoing or criminal activity, okay? He and his attorneys have said that if anything sexual did happen, it was consensual. And remember, he hasn't been found liable in a court of law yet. He hasn't been found guilty in a court of law yet. And I think the argument would be it
sounds like
seems strange to you.
It sounds like he was creating an environment of control and power, and it sounds like even if it can be proved that the sex was consensual, it was still coerced. It was still a workplace environment where I mentioned just earlier, where the men and women were um believed that they had to do what it takes. Basically, with Diddy, in order to move forward and like keep him happy and like so that it's not career suicide to not do what he wants.
You and I might not engage in these kinds of freak off sessions, but it's not necessarily illegal. Now, the accusations in this first lawsuit, I have to tell you, are so disturbing that there's just some of this complaint I'm not going to get into. That's actually with respect to, I think, lawsuits do. Certain details I'm just not going to share, but I do have to talk about certain details. It's important to know what we're saying. It's important to know what the people are saying, why they're saying it, and what the protections are under the law. So with that caveat, let's go into this. Now, one of the latest lawsuits is from a John Doe who lives in Texas. The complaint says, in the late 90s and early 2000s, plaintiff was an actor, regularly traveling across the United States for auditions and roles on stage and screen. After finding out about a role playing a police officer in a music video, plaintiff exchanged phone calls with a female casting director in New York. In October 2001, he traveled to Manhattan to meet with her. Now, we don't know John Doe's age at the time he says he met Sean Combs, but we know that he was an adult. But we've told you about other lawsuits where people claim that when they were children, maybe sometimes when they were auditioning for Sean Combs, they were sexually assaulted.
Then that is a workplace environment that he took advantage of.
They were drugged. So keep that in mind. But going back to this lawsuit, so John Doe goes to New York. He goes to a hotel near Central.
If he doesn't go to prison, I'm gonna be very surprised. He would have had like the best lawyers.
Park, and it's there where he meets up with someone appearing to be Sean Combs' bodyguard or an assistant of some kind. And they talk about John Doe's background and his fitness routines. And when Combs comes in, he asks John Doe questions about himself and his trip to New York. And he reportedly wants to know if John Doe is there by himself, meaning, did he have any friends in New York? John Doe told him no. Process that for a second. Because then he says Combs allegedly gave John Doe the once over and said he'll do. A very ominous statement, given what the plaintiff says happened next, because the complaint reads, once plaintiff sat back down, the casting director offered him an alcoholic drink, which he declined. She then offered him a Diet Coke in a glass, which he drank, but noted that it tasted strange. At that point, plaintiff realized the casting director was the only female in the room. The conversation continued regarding the music video and shooting schedule, but as time passed, plaintiff began to feel dizzy and nauseous. He asked to use the bathroom because he felt like he might pass out. Shortly after that, plaintiff did in fact pass out. Based on information and belief, Combs by himself or through his agents' employees previously laced plaintiff's drink with drugs, including but not limited to GHB and or ecstasy. That theme of alleged drugging is a constant through line in both the criminal allegations and the civil allegations.
Give me 1 second.
And we have to warn you that this next part is incredibly tough. The complaint reads, plaintiff came to in a twilight state, still dizzy and nauseous, but semi-conscious and disoriented. As plaintiff tried to get his bearings, he realized he was laying face down across a large ottoman with his head and arms hanging off of one side and the lower half of his body hanging off the other. His pants were pulled down to his ankles and his shirt was pulled over his head. He felt a great deal of pain and realized as he looked back that he was being anally sodomized by Combs.
Oh man.
His vision was blurry, but he recognized Combs' chest tattoo and the large gold chain with a jeweled cross on it that Combs wore during the interview. Plaintiff tried to fight him off, but dizzy and sick whenever he tried to. Additionally, Combs' bodyguard was holding plaintiff down by the arms.
Dang.
John Doe then described
that is insane.
Alleged assault of the graphic detail claiming multiple men. Other people were laughing, talking, saw camera flashes at one point. John Doe claims that he passed out multiple times before he was finally able to regain control of his body and get up. The complaint says embarrassed and violated, plaintiff tried to cover himself up and started looking for his clothes. Once he found his pants, shirt, and shoes, he ran for the door without his underwear and also without one of his prized possessions, a commemorative leather jacket that he got from working as a stuntman on film RoboCop. Out, he heard someone near the door laugh and say, "Hope you had fun." He goes
Wow.
on to say that the doorman helped plaintiff get a cab and he returned to his room at his hotel, where plaintiff vomited and cried all night, replaying the trauma of what had just happened. He feared others' disbelief and or the perpetrator's retaliation if he told anyone.
That that part is very important and very telling. He feared others' disbelief and or the perpetrator's retaliation if he told anyone. That that fear-mongering environment in this workplace, what a terrible thing that he had to experience in his industry through work. That's terrible.
In the aftermath of the assault, plaintiff struggled with intense emotional and mental health issues, feeling disgusted and deeply depressed. Plaintiff has experienced a significant impact on his personal life. He is never married and often struggles to maintain relationships due to the assault.
Oh,
Now, John Doe is suing under the New York Victims of Gender-Motivated Violence Protection Act. This is something we've talked about before. So even though this alleged assault happened in 2001, John Doe's legal team is arguing that the GMBA would apply in this case, where the requirement that the crime of violence be committed because of gender or on the basis of gender, and due at least in part to an animus based on the victim's gender, that is satisfied, they say, because defendant Combs forced plaintiff to engage in a sexual interaction without consent. Now, there is a look-back window to sue for these kinds of claims because when under normal circumstances the statute of limitations would have expired, you can't bring a lawsuit, people can use this now to sue, and they can sue until February 2025. And this protection, by the way, not only allows plaintiffs to recover damages, but they can also recover attorney's fees and costs. That's an advantage here. Now I want to move on to another lawsuit. This one is from a Jane Doe who lives in Maryland now and accuses Sean Combs of sexual assault in 2001. Her complaint states that in 2001, plaintiff, who was 18 years old at the time, and her cousin attended a Halloween party held at Club New Yorker in Manhattan. Combs and his entourage also attended the party and
oh,
provided drinks to plaintiff and her friends throughout the night. During the Halloween party, one of Combs' security guards escorted plaintiff and two friends to a large black SUV limousine parts of the club. They entered the vehicle and saw Combs sitting in the back. At least 6 members of Combs' security team were also in the limousine. One of the men handed plaintiff a drink. Minutes later, she began feeling dizzy, intoxicated, disoriented. She felt as though she was unable to control her own actions. Based on information and belief, Combs, by himself or through his agents, employees, previously laced the drink with drugs, including but not limited to GHB and or ecstasy. You can see similar language here. Combs allegedly ordered her to perform oral sex on one of his security guards, and then she also claims forced to perform oral sex on Combs too.
wow.
In the aftermath of the assault, plaintiff struggled with intense emotional pain and mental health issues, feeling disgusted and deeply depressed, with symptoms of post-traumatic stress. She is also suing for violations of New York City Victims of Gender-Motivated Violence Protection Act. Another Jane Doe says that she was attacked, this time in 2004, also in Manhattan. She says she was a 17-year-old model at the time and went to a modeling gig where she was approached by 2 men who gave her a flyer for a party. The lawsuit says that the party turned out to be one of defendant Combs' infamous 4th of July parties at his estate in the Hamptons. Combs' Hamptons parties regularly attracted A-list celebrities from across the entertainment, fashion, and business worlds, and this one was no different. The event was lavishly decorated, featured live performances, music performances, and boasted top-tier food and beverages, an atmosphere of opulence and luxury full of celebrities. Many unsuspecting individuals like plaintiff were recruited to attend these parties. When plaintiff arrived, Combs' staff at the front door required her to hand over her purse and her cell phone prior to entering. Now, this is something that we've heard before, that guests at Combs' parties had to surrender their phones. And sometimes even it was reported they had to sign non-disclosure agreements before they were allowed in. The complaint continues. Plaintiff recognized numerous celebrities in attendance as she walked around the party. Servers circulated through the rooms of the mansions with trays of drinks. The plaintiff decided to have one. Shortly after drinking, the plaintiff began to feel lightheaded and disoriented. Now, what's alarming about that is, if that's true, she just took a random drink and it was potentially laced. I mean, that's the insinuation, right? And that's different than a drink being deliberately handed to her. So again,
Yeah.
if true, were all the drinks at this party just laced with drugs? That was my initial reaction. Quote, as she was feeling blissfully disoriented, plaintiff searched for a place to sit. She stumbled to a couch and promptly lost consciousness. When she awoke, plaintiff's underwear was missing. Felt private areas, let me just say that. At this point, plaintiff was alone and she could not find the friend who had accompanied her to the party. In a state of panic, to hyperventilate, decline. The complaint goes on to state that Combs and two of his bodyguards approached plaintiff and threatened her. Combs told plaintiff that she would be in danger if she spoke about what had occurred, stating that he ran New York and would ruin her. At this point, plaintiff recognized that at least Combs had sexually assaulted her while she was unconscious. She feared for her life. Plaintiff was coerced into agreeing not to contact the police in exchange for the return of her purse and phone. She agreed out of fear of what would happen if she did not. In the aftermath of the assault, plaintiff experienced and continues to experience intense emotional pain and mental health issues, including post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, and anxiety. And Jane Doe also cited the GMBA as her cause of action. Moving on to the fourth new lawsuit, a plaintiff who now lives in Georgia makes claims that he says happened much more recently, 2022, when he was 39 years old. Says he went to a Diddy party at a large home in New York City. Went with friends, drank alcohol that was provided to him, and John Doe says he blacked out. When plaintiff regained consciousness, he was in a dark bedroom with black walls on a bed with black sheets. Everything around him was dark. Plaintiff was horrified to find Combs on top of him, sodomizing him. Plaintiff, in a state of shock and confusion, forcefully fought Combs off and fled the room, making his way to a near house in an effort to escape the situation as quickly as possible. He didn't return to the party after the assault. The plaintiff was traumatized by the assault and continues to experience severe emotional distress as a result of what he endured at Combs' hands. John Doe is also filing under the GMBA. But there is something I have to tell you about this law. Failed to get the court's permission to file this anonymously as a John Doe. This is an issue we've seen before in other cases against Sean Combs, where courts have said the plaintiffs, they have to reveal their identities if they want this to proceed. Here, it seems to be an issue that this plaintiff never even got permission from the court to do so. So we'll see what happens next. Now this brings us to the fifth lawsuit. And that actually doesn't cite the GMBA as a cause of action. Instead, a Florida John Doe is suing all the plaintiffs for assault and sexual assault. And his lawsuit states, in 2022, plaintiff Ming spent time with associates of Combs' businesses at a popular Miami nightclub. He did not consume alcohol at the nightclub. After spending some time with these individuals, an associate of Combs invited plaintiff to an after-hours event being hosted by Combs at a residential home. After arriving, plaintiff entered the residence and joined the other partygoers. Plaintiff saw about 45 to 50 people, many of whom were recognizable public figures. While mingling and making small talk with others, an associate of Combs approached plaintiff, indicating that Combs wanted to meet with him. The associate took plaintiff upstairs, where Combs greeted him with a drink and offered a tour of the house. Plaintiff obliged and began following Combs around the home. The tour came to an end in a bedroom. The bedroom smelled strongly of marijuana. Five other individuals, three men, two women, apart from Combs and plaintiff, were inside the room as well. Plaintiff and Combs entered the room. Combs demanded the women perform sexual dances and acts on the other three men. Around this time, plaintiff suddenly felt weak and disoriented, unlike anything he had ever experienced with alcohol before. His plaintiff's condition worsened and
Okay, I'm done listening to all of this because it's a lot. And while I was trained in forensic psychology to like listen to this, I'm done with it. Glee did not age well. That's true, bro.
what's up, dude?
Where did it go? Glee did not age well.
I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to go back to June of 2020. We're all depressed. My girlfriend says we've watched through Succession twice. We've watched through I Think You Should Leave again. Watched through all of BoJack Horseman. Do you want to watch Glee? It's insane. And knowing me from my videos, I said, of course. I never got to watch. Since it's come out, it seems like the craziest show on television. And there's nothing I love more than bad TV that's also insane. It's my bread and butter. You could call it my Ed and butter. Because that oh my, about a season and a half of Glee. And I kept thinking, oh man, I really want to make a video about this show now. It's insane. And certainly I'm not the first person to make a video about it, but I didn't watch anyone else's video on it. So now I get to talk. So things have been weird for me lately, and I thought, you know what's mental health? I should watch Glee again. And I was going to make a video on the first 10 episodes of season 1. And when I started the pilot, I realized that the pilot is so insane, it would fill up an entire video. So today, we're going to go through the pilot of Glee, because I have to talk about how insane this show is. I cannot believe it's on TV, and I cannot believe it didn't get canceled right when somebody saw the pilot. It's insane to me. So first, I want to say that Glee doesn't start off bad in any way, shape, or form. There's clearly some care put into the show. It's just the way the characters are written that I mostly have a problem with. First, we're introduced to the cheerleading team and Sue Sylvester, pretty much just showing that she's a ruthless coach. And then we're introduced to arguably the main character of Glee, Will Schuester. Will's car that he is strapped for cash, and also lives in Ohio. Two things that most people try not to be. And immediately, he spots a member of the Glee Club, who's also a student of his. He calls him out by name, about to be bullied by a group of jocks. And he's completely oblivious to it. An adult that you would want to trust in school. Now, I can't use the audio from these scenes because they're using Earth, Wind, and Fire's
And I also can't do too much of this scene as well.
Shining Star to do a montage in the intro, which I actually like. It's really fun. It gives cool energy introducing everybody. Some key bits of information are Will stops and stares at a Glee Club national championship and clearly a teacher that ran the Glee Club that he admired. He's not currently the head of the Glee Club. He's a Spanish teacher, and Finn is one of his students, Finn being a main character who is the quarterback at the school. And then something else happens during the montage. The willow tree. So one of the first things we see happen in Glee during this montage is the old Glee Club head, or the current in that scene, inappropriately touches students. That is 2 minutes into the fun fuck Glee Club show, and it is not really played for anything other than laughs and plot, which right away is like, that's 2009, not 1962.
That is insane. I think I remember that vaguely, and that was weird as fuck.
Dude, that's weird as hell. So at the school currently, a lot of the teachers are complaining that there's only funding for the Cheerios, which is the cheer team. They seem to be national champions. Sue Sylvester seems like a real celebrity coach, and all of the school funding is going to that because it brings in money to the school. Then Will learns that a colleague of his, the head of the Glee Club, gets fired, and this is his first reaction.
Who's going to take over Glee Club? I'd like to take over Glee Club.
You want to captain the Titanic too?
Now, I would be lying if I didn't say that there's me writing in Glee. A lot of the back and forth with the principal in most of the first season is really funny.
There's no joy in these kids. They feel invisible. That's why every one of them has a MySpace page.
But there are also some things that don't age well at all.
What is it with you and this club?
You got only 5 kids. One of them's a cripple.
Then I guess you got nothing to worry about.
Then we are introduced to Rachel. Rachel seems like a pity of a cutthroat theater kid. Except we're supposed to also feel for her, so she's not just a parody character made for laughs. She's just an awful person. And speaking of awful, she's the teaching student, not out of the sake of old and exposed thing that kid might have not been, so she could get a solo in a music. So that's what Rachel's like.
I am not homophobic. In fact,
I have 2K channels.
Also, my last video got completely demonetized because there was a TV show clip in it. I'm not going to let that stop me from using clips of Glee in this. I feel like it's really important to make the video much better could be without it. So I just want to say this one probably will get demonetized. If you do want to support me, I did just launch my winter merch stuff. It's yikeshop.com. The link's in the description. Okay, back to it. So you'll see this show. Will's wife is an all person, but we're not told that yet, so we shouldn't assume it in any way.
Except in her every behavior and the way that she treats others is poorly. Like, she's just a terrible person in the way that she takes care of people. So I'm not sure.
So Will Schuester and his wife are trying to have a baby, and while he's trying to start this huge part of his life, he becomes obsessed with heading the Glee Club.
I just wanted to tell you that I'm going to have to start working late for the next monitoring after school detention.
For some reason, because the kids are depressed, but he doesn't really know the kids that well. A little bit of backstory is that Will was in the Glee Club in the 90s, and they won nationals. So he's chasing that feeling that he missed before. He doesn't really care about the students or helping them in any way. And he's prioritizing this over trying to start a new chapter of his life with his wife, and he lies to her about it.
William! Sandy?
So Will runs into the old Glee Club head, and he's not disgraced after being fired for inappropriately touching a student at school.
Are you kidding? Getting out of that swirling eddy of despair, best thing that ever happened to me. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't easy at first. Being dismissed, and for what I love, my long-distance girlfriend in Cleveland nearly broke up with me.
He's just kind of played for laughs that he's, a weed dealer now. So what the fuck is that all about? So Will wants to head the Glee Club, but the principal says there's only $60 a month in the budget because all the money is going to the cheerleading team. What does Will need $60 for even? To have a bunch of people singing in a room? I don't know, but he needs it.
Hiding the $60 a month from my wife, Terry, was going to be hard. But I had a bigger problem.
Now, first, I want to say that we all deserve financial compensation from Fox for making us see Matthew Moore without a shirt on. I will not be explaining myself. I think we all understand what I mean. But, dude, yeah, it's going to be hard lying to your wife. You're trying for a baby right now, and you're trying to siphon off money that you don't have for a new thing that you asked for. Just a reminder again, his wife is a terrible person, but he doesn't know that yet. They're trying to start a family, and he's off trying to fuel his own ego and waste his own money for his own family.
Sue, can I have a sec?
Sure, buddy. Also, I want to take a second to say that Jane Lynch, in the rest of the show, too, is so good as Sue Sylvester. Her lines are usually the funniest in the show because she's kind of making fun of the whole idea of Glee Club and how cheesy the show is. But at times, she's also horrible, like every character in the show. Every character, at some point, not all in the pilot, but at some point does something truly, truly awful. And we're supposed to just, skate past that. Either way, Jane Lynch fucking killed it.
So you want to talk to my Cheerios about joining Glee Club? Well, I need more kids. Performers. The best ones are in the Cheerios.
So then the show presents us with Will's kind of problem. He wants to head the Glee Club and start it up again after this kind of horrible tragedy. And nobody wants to do it. So he's definitely not doing it for the kids because they don't want to do it. He wants to do Glee Club for his own selfish reasons. And anything he says to anyone else otherwise is a lie.
Honestly thought that was the end of the very brief fever dream that was New Directions.
And now we get to a very common and reoccurring aspect of Glee. Adults and the kids in the show being really creepy and not respecting the boundary of minors versus adults. Will hears Finn singing in the shower, and he decides to not only walk up to him in the shower, but the shot of Finn, his legs flipping around, seems very much to put the idea in your head there's a flop. You know what I mean? Why would they show that other than he's exposing himself? And then his teacher, his Spanish teacher, just keeps walking up and listening to him. And there's no moment where it's played for laughs where he says, like, hey, you're really good, and Finn gets scared. He watches him in shower, and then the scene ends. So, oh my God, seems to be a recurring theme with the Glee teacher heads with certain behavior. And then the next scene, Finn is a jock, and he's like an 80s jock in this. So he doesn't want to sing. It's a High School Musical. He likes to sing but doesn't want to do it because sports, you know? The age-old question of, should I sing even though I'm good at it, but I played the sports? What do we do? What will my dad say? That's not a problem for Finn, because his dad is dead. his dad is dead in the show. His dad is very much dead, so there's no High School Musical dad to go like, Finn, what are you doing? You invested your life in this. Because, you know, he's literally Ash in an urn. Anyways, Will Schuester wants to start Glee Club so bad, he decides to get the weed that the gym teacher was buying from the old, disgraced, creepy Glee Club teacher and blackmail Finn into joining the Glee Club.
It's not mine. I'll pee in a cup.
Okay, look, it wouldn't make it. Possession is 8 of the law. I'm pretty sure that much pot is a felony.
We're supposed to be cool with that? He's like a 16-year-old kid who wasn't smoking weed, and then his Spanish teacher's like, damn, I want to get Glee Club going so bad. I'm going to have to blackmail this kid whose dad died. I'm sorry. What? Huh? He did what? So in the middle of being blackmailed, Finn has what I like to call a reverse That's So Raven moment, otherwise known as a memory. And the memory is of this guy who used to date his mom when he was younger, who loved to sing while he did yard work, and he let Finn sing too. So Finn kind of fell in love with singing, and the guy encouraged him to do it until he cheated on Finn's mom. And Finn's just like, yeah, that sucked for my mom, but he's really cool, and I always thought he was the best. So Finn and Rachel are singing as the leads, and Mercedes, who was the original singer in the club before this, and is probably the best vocalist out of all of them, says that she's unhappy for being a backup singer. And Will Schuester is like, hey, this is a one-time thing. We're not going to do that to you.
Okay, look, Mercedes, it's just one song.
And it's the first time we've been kind of good. Okay.
And as someone who watched the show further, they absolutely do that to her for the rest of the show. Like, she gets her moments occasionally, but she was right. So after a hard day's work of blackmailing a child, Will and Terry are doing a puzzle together as they discuss their financial troubles. Terry wants Will to become an accountant because they are broke, but Will reveals that they're broke because she has a Pottery Barn shopping addiction.
Come on, we cannot afford this stuff, Terry.
But we could, Will.
So they both can afford to raise a child if they wanted to, but Will can't give the time and also is, working on a teacher's salary, which, should be more. And his wife, Terry, has a shopping addiction. These are two people that should not have a child. Oh my God. There's also a will they, won't they immediately in the pilot with Emma Pillsbury, the other teacher, with Will and her. There's no chemistry at all. It's not interesting. And excited about the Glee Club moving forward, Will Schuester returns home to find out this.
I'm pregnant.
Oh no, Will can't do the Glee Club anymore because he's having a kid and has to be responsible. Obviously that was going to happen. They were trying to get pregnant. So what the fuck did he expect?
Leaving us?
So at this point, everyone's sad that Mr. Schuester is leaving the Glee Club. But if you look back at the episode, the only one-on-one emotional conversations he had is one with Rachel, where he tries to convince her to join Glee, and she says, like, no, it's not worth it. And one with Finn, where he's blackmailing him. So I don't really know why everyone's so broken up about this. So after finding out that Finn is in the Glee Club, and this is like, still, this is 2009. So bad things have happened at schools, if you know what I mean. And the entire football team seems to bring paintball guns on campus and shoot Finn point blank with paintball guns, which is extremely painful if that happened with one of the paintball guns. But like 8 or 9 of them? That's a crime. That's assault. Oh Oh my god! And the bullying continues. Puck, the other jock character, wants Finn to prove himself by tipping over a poor potty with Artie in it just because Artie's in a wheelchair. These are characters that will become endearing later. But they start the show by being somebody who would put a person in a wheelchair in a porta potty for the sole reason that they're in a wheelchair. I'm just going to say I will not be looking that character in the future, okay? I'm just going to say no matter how endearing they make him in the future, I'm good. No thanks. And then I love Finn sees the guy, who made him like singing, but also more importantly, the guy that cheated on his mom, having fun with the woman that's involved in the cheating. And he's just like, hell yeah. There he goes, that guy that cheated on my mom. Finn goes to convince everyone he wants to join the Glee Club, and he doesn't want to be a bully anymore. And Kurt is like, hey, you've relentlessly bullied me in a homophobic way for years. And Finn's just like, I'm sorry, but I want to sing, though. Is that okay? Dude, what the hell? Sorry is in order. A much bigger sorry is in order. But as everyone is coming together, Miss Pillsbury tries to inspire Will not to take care of his family, but to follow his dreams. And he says this.
That's the greatest moment of my life.
I'm sorry. Being in Glee Club Nationals was the greatest moment of his life? No wonder he's doing all this. This guy he's had a lot of time to have greater moments. Can you imagine being on your deathbed? Thank you, everyone, for being here. I just wanted to let you know that the greatest moment of my life was the 1997 Glee Club Nationals. Everyone around you is just like, oh, that's sad. So there we have it. Finn makes the High School Musical choice. The Glee Club comes together. Will decides to be responsible and take care of his family. All the arcs are complete to set up a good show. And what's that?
It would kill me to see you win nationals without me.
Oh, Will says that he wants to be a part of it if they're going to win nationals. He just wants to be a part of the glory of Glee High School Nationals. And that's what his character motivation is for the rest of the show. Overall, I think the core problem with Glee is it has... On one hand, it is a teen show for kids to watch it and see themselves on television and expel these kids at a high school. Characters you're supposed to sympathize with while they're also awful and bullying each other and betraying each other, and later in the show, constantly cheating on each other. And I really think Glee, if they wanted to lean into the parody aspect, would have worked way better as a movie, because you're not asking people to invest a lot of time in these characters and care about them. They're more just parodies of 80s films or, your classic high school movies. But when you're asking to tune in every week to sympathize with kids who are constantly horrible to each other and cheating on each other and have adults being extremely inappropriate behind them, it can probably do some damage. I know there were a lot of people that watched Glee that kind of had a moment in their 20s where they stopped and they were like, wait, that show was really fucked up and really changed the way I think about people. And I'd love to talk about Glee further. I was going to watch the first 10 episodes, and if this video does really well, then I would love to talk about it more, but only if it does really well, because, I want people to watch my stuff. So that's the Glee pilot.
Wow. I just want to say the thought he wasn't really like that funny. So I want to go. I still have a bunch of things that I have to do. I might go live again later, but have a good afternoon, have a good morning, have a good night.